Podcast Answer Man, episode number 219.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference. This is GSPN.TV. Join the community.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and this is the podcast about podcasting, helping you take your show to the next level. It does not matter if you're a brand new podcaster, if you've been podcasting for many years, or if you're just waiting to launch your very first episode. There's something we can all do to take our show to the next level. Well, everybody, I want to welcome you back to the 219th episode here of Podcast Answer Man. And as I had mentioned in the previous episode of Podcast Answer Man, I am not recording this live on Thursday, but instead recording this secretly on another day and another time throughout my week. And I just want to say I automatically feel really good about today's episode. I don't feel any pressure. The only thing is it just so happens to be that I chose a day and a time to schedule this when it happens to be that my next door neighbor happens to be home and mowing his lawn next door. Now, thankfully, I have a dynamic microphone and not a condenser microphone in my studio, and also making use of the gate functionality of my MDX 4600 compressor limiter gate. And so, therefore, while I hear the actual next door neighbor's lawnmower right now here in just overall, I don't think that you're going to be able to hear it too much at all in this episode, which makes things pretty nice. So anyway, we're going to move right along here, and I want to let you know I am switching things up a bit. First and foremost, I want to tell you that I have been using Google Docs for my show notes preparation, basically keeping track of all the topics that I'm going to cover, links to stories, and all of these different things. And I've gone back and forth and used various different means of preparing show notes in advance for not just this show, but I also produce about somewhere between 7 to 15 episodes a week, and those are all different podcasts. And so I have a lot of things to keep track of, and for the last 6 to 8 months, I've been using a single Google Doc shared with as many as 5 different co-hosts, and each of them broken with a horizontal line with, breaking it down for each show. And we all share that same Google document, and we could all be inside it at the same time, and it's worked really nice. The only thing is with Google Docs, my main grief there was that I really wanted something that's going to make it very simple for me after we're finished reviewing the topics in our podcasts to easily take that and convert it into show notes. And for that, in my mind, what I'm always looking for is just a very brief, short kind of title for the topic, like switching to Wunderlist for show prep stories. I'm not looking for the show notes preparation document to actually write out everything, but just something like a headline. So each topic would have a headline, and so therefore, of course, I would love the functionality that if I do have some additional notes that I want to remind myself of, to have those. And in a Word doc, those things can kind of get all over the place, especially when you have 6 or 7 different people all doing things their way to track notes and things, and so there's not a lot of uniformity. The other thing is with Google Docs, you can get into, sometimes it goes back to its default font size, which I was not very crazy about. I always like to take it, highlight everything on the document and then change it to font size 9. I like it real crisp. And people have the ability sometimes to just copy something off of the web and then paste it into the doc, and that sometimes will keep the formatting from the actual original document. So the font colors may be different, the actual font itself could be different, and it's just not as easy to follow as simply a list would be. And so I've done all kinds of different things. I've tried to get my co-hosts to switch over to a mind map, which is what I'm literally tracking all my archives with my assistant. And some of my co-hosts were like, I just don't understand what you're trying to accomplish here, and it's kind of confusing, and it does have this big branch out. I mean, like the last 9 months worth of shows are all in a mind map, and they're collapsible and expandable, and to be honest with you, it's a little crazy, and it's highly OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder oriented for me. But anyway, it works. It works great for me, and it did not work great for them, so we chose to keep the Google Doc when I switched over to that method. But the Google Doc still has been frustrating to me. It just, with all these different fonts, and it's, I at the end of the day, the one thing that's keeping me from having my assistant post and publish episodes to the web is not getting her the content, not her processing, my special, secret sauce from Adobe Audition. No, it's always she's waiting for me to provide her the show notes. And well, I am switching everything over to Wunderlist, Wunderlist. Now, I do have one co-host that is kind of like leery about something new. He really likes Google Docs, and so I told him, I said, listen, if you'd be willing to try it for 1 week, if you don't like it, we'll go back to the Google Doc for this one show. That's not a problem. But I think he's really going to like it, even though he actually is creating a Wunderlist account just for this purpose. Whereas actually all of my other co-hosts are using Wunderlist personally. So they already have an account. They're already using it anyway, and it's a great way for them to just jump right in. So the good news is that Wunderlist is completely free, free on the web, free on the desktop versions that are available for Mac and PC, and free on the iPhone, free on the iPad. Tons of different ways to get Wunderlist. It's 100% free. I've looked for ways to pay them so that, I can hope that they'll stay around forever without tons of advertising and all this other stuff. But as far as I can tell, there's not a premium version. If there was, I would probably sign up for it because of how much I rely on it now. Not just for show prep now, but I use it for all my task management. And I love Wunderlist, Wunderlist. Well, anyway, I created a bunch of different lists, and how I'm organizing them is I title the list. I started off with show, SHOW, space, hyphen, space, and then the letter representation for the show. For example, the show's notes for this show here is show-PAM, P-A-M for Podcast Answer Man. And for Help I Got a Mac will be show-HIGAM. And then I basically have those in a list alphabetically. And so as I think of new topics that I want to create in a show, especially when I'm out and about, I don't have to try to get into a Google Doc on my iPhone, which is not fun. Instead, I can just pull up Wunderlist, add a little topic there, boom, it immediately syncs to my list. And there is a sharing feature, functionality with it, so I can actually share a list with somebody. For example, if Chris Biting for Help I Got a Mac was to find a topic that he liked, and he added it from his iPhone, his iPad, the web, wherever, his desktop version, doesn't matter. If he adds a topic, then it within a couple minutes, it will show up in my list as well. And it will. The cool thing is you can easily rearrange topics, or they're actually still called tasks, but the topics can be arranged in order by dragging and dropping, and it's just a really great way, I think, that's going to help me to keep these stories in a nice new fashion. And the thing is, it's a list. It is a list, and that kind of forces you to create that headline that I'm looking for. And if there's a link to an original story, I'm asking my co-host, and I've been asking them to do this in the actual Google Doc as well. But what I ask them to do is to actually create a shortened URL to that story and paste that into Wunderlist. Now, this is one of the other things that I did not like about Google Docs. Is Google Docs, if you paste a link in there and you actually hit enter, it will make the link active. Well, the thing is, though, is the link is not an actual link to that. They actually mask the link and do a redirect, and it actually gives you a warning. If you're in the Google Doc and you click on it, then it will actually say, hey, you just clicked on a link in Google Docs, and this is going to take you to this address. Are you sure you want to go there? And it's like, okay, well, I see that that's for protection purposes. That's great and all. But if that link is active in the Google Doc, and then I copy and paste that into my email to to my assistant, if she was to take that actual hyperlink where it's underlined, if she copies and pastes that into, let's say, the WYSIWYG editor of WordPress and pastes it in there, she's pasting in the pre-coded redirect from Google Apps or Google Docs into that show notes. And so when people are clicking in my show notes, they would actually click that and they would actually get that Google redirect notice. And I had noticed that happened one time, and of course, since then, I made sure that when we're adding these links, yes, it's great to have them hyperlinked and active, so that as we're talking in our show, we can click on it and pull up the actual website for reference purposes. But after the show was done, while I'm creating the show notes, for the episode to send over to my assistant, I have to go in and actively remove those hyperlinks that they created so that I just get the text-based stuff. Whereas in Wunderlist, when you add a shortened URL to a task item, it is active and it's the real link. And so I like that. No longer is it 2 clicks to get to a story; it's 1 click to get to a story. So that's a benefit. And then when I'm all finished after an episode, I can actually, there's an email icon, and I can just click email, and I can email that list to my assistant, and she can actually just see the list, and she can formulate the notes for me on my behalf. She can actually write out some custom things, or I can just email it to myself and then quickly reformat that email and forward it on to my assistant. So I'm really excited about moving things away from Google Docs to Wunderlist.com, WUNDERLIST.com. And one other real quick thing, and then we'll move on to the next topic here, is that you can upload I don't know if you guys ever heard of Cloud App. It's getcloudapp.com. Absolutely love their service. Well, anyway, Wunderlist has an account with them, and you can actually share your list with the cloud, and it actually says share with Cloud App on this little cloud icon. And it says this feature allows you to share your list with Cloud App. If you click yes, your list gets uploaded to Cloud App, and you'll get a secret URL that will be generated. You can use the URL to share your task easily with others who do not have a Wunderlist account, or share them publicly on Twitter. Hint: this is permanent. Anyone who knows the URL will be able to see your current list. It gets deleted automatically after 30 days. Okay, now the cool thing is that you can click yes, go ahead and share it, and it gives you the link, and you click the little copy link button, and it will take your list as it is now and upload it to Cloud App, and then you can paste that into Twitter. For me, I can say, hey folks, here are the show notes of what we're looking at today. And just before the show starts, I can post it into the chat room for Social Media Serenity, and everybody can be looking at those show notes. Now, the thing is that as we add new list items back and forth and stuff like that, that web-created version of my list is not going to show the new stuff. It's only going to show things as of the time that I actually shared it. So what was on the list when I shared it is only what gets published to the web, nothing new. And so just some functionality there, but that's going to be a great way for me to say, hey folks, thanks for joining live. If you want to see if you want to link to the stories as we're looking at them, here's a link to our show notes. And let me just click here real quick, because I just did this, and I want to see if those links are hyperlinked as well, and they are. So even the hyperlinks are hyperlinks for folks as they're listening live. Wunderlist for my show notes prep. I'm excited about it. Hey, real quickly here, moving on to our next thing, we have our first question of the week, and this comes in from Brian, and he's got a question about FeedBurner. So, Brian, take it away.
Hey, this is Brian from the We Are in Control podcast. My question is about RSS feeds. Namely, I'm kind of doing a redesign, and I've learned a lot from my mistakes and learned what I've been doing wrong since I started this. So even though I am publishing via RSS my podcast to iTunes, I realized the need to use FeedBurner. So my question is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over from scratch. Should the basis of the FeedBurner feed be the original RSS that I can develop through Libsyn? or should it be through my website? Now, I plan to do a separate feed entirely for my blog, but for the actual podcast, should I create the XML file using the software that Libsyn does in order to create that RSS feed, then use that as the basis for the FeedBurner feed, and then use the FeedBurner feed to publish the podcast, not only to iTunes, but to everything else that I want to use it for. So that's really my question. Where should the feed really start? Should the URL that's listed in the RSS come from Libsyn, or should it just be my website? Thanks a lot. That's my question. Take care.
All right, Brian, thank you very much for your question, and I am going to answer that for you. And the good news is that if you are using FeedBurner, which is not required for podcasting, by the way, but it is something that I personally highly recommend for podcasters to use. And the good news is that if you were to originate your RSS, use the original feed as being the feed coming from Libsyn, and you sent that over to FeedBurner, and you went through all the trouble of submitting to iTunes and all the other directories and putting links for everybody on your website to click through and subscribe to the FeedBurner feed. Well, if you found out later that Cliff says, you know what, you really shouldn't do that from Libsyn, you should actually pull that the original feed should be coming from your WordPress feed. Well, the good news is that if you did it all wrong in the beginning, if you're using FeedBurner, it's not a big deal because people are subscribed to your FeedBurner feed and not your Libsyn feed. And so if you decided to switch it and pull it off of the Libsyn feed and say, hey, instead, I want you to get the information from WordPress, then you can do that in the dashboard. That's something you can change. And that's the main benefit of FeedBurner is that it is going to allow you to change the original feed at any time, and your subscribers will never notice the difference unless, for example, you switch it to a feed that has different content altogether, and there's a big, huge back archive, and then they might actually, on their next update, see a list of new content that's available for them to download that they hadn't downloaded before. But anyway, but to answer your question, Brian, my recommendation is that your original feed pull from your WordPress. Now, I know you said you wanted to use you wanted to have a different feed for your blog and a different feed for your podcast. And I assume that you have reasons for doing that. I kind of like combining the two myself. As far as for the people who are subscribed to the blog, I like them to also get the podcast episodes because my show notes are hopefully going to be reminiscent of a blog post anyway. And clicking on the audio to listen to the podcast is a even more of a in-depth listen, if you will, of the things that are kind of just highlighted there in that actual post or show notes. So I like to at least include my podcast episodes with the very good, robust show notes into the blog feed if somebody's going to subscribe to the blog. But I do like having the podcast have its own category as well, and taking the RSS feed just from the podcast category and sending that to FeedBurner to submit to all the podcasting directories, because podcast directories are pretty much only going to be looking at media attached content or enclosed content such as MP3 files, PDF documents, and video files and such. So with that being said, what I recommend is, again, I like the idea of having a blog category and creating an RSS feed for it, but I would include, when I publish an episode of Podcast Answer Man, I don't think I do this, but the thing is on Podcast Answer Man, if you're subscribing to the feed there for the blog, I think you're subscribing to the whole site anyway. It's all together. But in the instance, if you're a blogger adding a podcast, I would actually, when I publish an episode of a podcast, I would include that in the blog category where people subscribe to the blog are getting it. But I also would have created a separate category called podcast. And then if you have your permalink set up right, it could be yourdomain.com or your domain /category/podcast/feed. And that gives you an RSS feed just for your podcast. And then send that off as the original feed for iTunes, and you're golden. Hopefully that made sense for you, Brian. If not, call back and let us know, or post notes in the show notes for episode 219 at podcastanswerman.com. All right, moving on to our next topic here. I want to give you an update on my AWeber switchover. Remember, I told you I switched my mailing list from MailChimp over to AWeber. And of course, if you want to read it's a lengthy blog post, but I think I spent a lot of time on it for great reason, and I think it's an important topic to discuss. And it's podcastanswerman.com/AWeber. That's AWEBER. So that's AWEBER. So podcastanswerman.com/AWeber. Basically, in that blog post, what I shared was that I was not happy with some of the results that I was seeing from my MailChimp mailing list. And what I had noticed is when I first started my MailChimp mailing list, my open rates were really, really high. I'm talking about 80 to 90% all the time. And I started to see some of my own copies of my newsletter messages or emails that I was sending out through my mailing list. I saw a lot of my own messages to me as a subscriber of the list showing up in my spam folder. And right around that time, I started to see a massive decrease in the number of opens of my emails. And or the percentage anyway. I mean, it was dropping to as low as 30 or 40% open rate. And that was just uncharacteristic of my community. I happen to know that my community is more interested in what I'm sharing via an email than that, and I know that based upon the fact that I'm not sharing an email just all the time. I'm very cautious about people's inbox. Well, my thoughts and everything were all confirmed now as the result of my first 2 broadcast messages on my AWeber list. Now, I'm in the blog post, I talked about the fact that it was a very difficult move to move things from one mailing list to another. But I'm glad that I did it, because here's what happened. On June 22nd, 2011 at 6:34 p.m., I sent out a message with the subject line of "A lot going on this summer." And after, I guess it took probably about a week and a half before I got to here. But I am telling you, I have a 99.1% open rate. My friends, 99.1%. That's almost that's 99 out of 100 people who received the message opened that message. And also I got a 44.3% click rate. So that's 44.3% of the people who received the message actually clicked on links within the message, and it actually generated a substantial amount of business for me personally. And I'm just comparing that to some of the more recent MailChimp messages that I sent, and it really does indicate to me that I was missing out on a lot. The second email I sent out was on July 10th, so that was 3 days ago as of the time that I'm recording this. So actually, it's less than 3 days ago, not quite 3 full days yet. And I put the subject line was something about I'm back from my road trip. I'm back from my trip and ready to roll. And in 3 days, I'm already at 79.3%. Now, this is putting me right in line with where my first broadcast message was, and if I were to look at this again next week, I would imagine this is going to be right around the 90 to 99% open rate. And so far, just 3 days later, 21.4% of the people who received the message clicked on a link or links within the message. So I just want to say, once again, I am very happy that I moved to AWeber. If you are interested again in that blog post, it's podcastanswerman.com/AWeber. And of course, I will have a link to that in the show notes here for Podcast Answer Man, episode number 219. All right, moving along, we have a review of JewelBeat from my good friend Steve Vischer, and Steve's going to tell us what he thinks about the service. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is a service where you can go to jewelbeat.com. That's JEWELBEAT.com and get 99 cents per music file for royalty-free music that you can use in your podcast, which is unheard of. I mean, usually these things run about $30 to $40, sometimes even $50. Worth it, But for 99 cents, I'm a little skeptical. I've gotten some people who shared some skepticism, but overall, the community here at gspn.tv and podcastanswerman.com, everybody's really loving this service. And in fact, here is Steve's review right here.
G'day Cliff, it's Steve Vischer here from the Plain Crazy Down Under podcast here in Melbourne, Australia, with some feedback for the Podcast Answer Man show. Just wanted to give a little bit of feedback for Jewelbeat, which you mentioned a show or two back, offering 99-cent music tracks royalty-free for podcasts and all sorts of other projects. So after hearing about it, I thought I would go and have a look, because I'm always on the lookout for new sound effects and new music tracks to use in my podcast. And I must admit, with offering 99-cent tracks like you, Cliff, I was a little bit skeptical. Wasn't exactly sure what I was going to find when I got there, but I'd have to say that I was pleasantly surprised. The tracks seem very much on par in terms of quality with what you would find at musicbakery.com, for instance. And when you go to Music Bakery, of course, you can be paying, around $40 US for a track. So obviously there's a huge price differential here with Jewelbeat at 99 cents. The site is not particularly well laid out. It's you got to do a little bit of digging around to find what you're after. They do offer 1,000 free sound effects with every order. I actually thought they might send that to you in some sort of bulk download, but in fact you've actually got to access that in another section on the site. However, the license that they give you, and Cliff, I'll send through a copy of the license they sent me, just so you can have a look at it. They do offer an extended license if you think you're going to distribute the song that you download more than 1 million times. Now, of course, I'd be thrilled if I could distribute anything that I produce that many times, but I think for now, that's probably not going to be an issue for me. And the only other thing that I noticed is that when you bring down a music track, the download speeds seem to be a little slow. Now, being down here in Australia, that may be just a function of the way the internet works down here. It can be a little bit slow at times, depending on the time of day. Now, I've downloaded about 8 tracks so far, and I'm just playing one in the background for you just to give an idea of the quality. They all seem to be about the same sort of quality as this. They come in high bitrate stereo. You can download them as MP3 or in WAV, which is handy. And the other thing I like about it is, just as you'll find at Music Bakery, at Jewelbeat you also get the option of getting the full version of the track, a modified full version, a 60-second, a 30-second, a 15-second, and about a 7-second sting. Now that's very handy for me because I run advertising in my podcast, and we're always looking for short, clipped down, rather catchy backing music to put underneath those advertisements. So all up so far, I think Jewelbeat, it's fairly safe. I don't know whether you've had time to check it out. I assume you have, but I'm pretty happy with it, and I think I'll continue to use it. Thanks, Cliff. Bye for now.
All right, Steve, thank you so much for a very thorough and well-prepared review of Jewelbeat, and your feedback is extremely in line. I mean, it's pretty much in line with everything that I've heard from everybody else who's checked it out. And yes, I have had a little bit more time to play around with the service, and it does look on the up and up. And I plan on continuing to use it as well for as long as a 99-cent royalty-free music service is available. So thank you very much, Steve, for that. And very, very, very good feedback. And folks, if you haven't done so already, go over and check out jewelbeat.com. Now, for those of you who are trying to keep things even cheaper, if 99 cents is still just a little bit too steep for your pocketbook and your budget for your music tracks for your podcast, perhaps you could look at Songify. That's right, Songify, the iPhone app. If you haven't heard about this, it is a funny little application that's available for free, and they have some in-app purchases if you want some additional songs. But Songify is put together by these people who are doing this thing called, I think it's called Auto-Tune the News. It's oftentimes where they'll take people from, news stories where they're interviewing people, and they create these little catchy, songs and stuff like that. I don't really follow them a whole lot, but I've certainly seen, 1 or 2 of these things passed around and talked about on various other media that I consume, and so I'm familiar with Auto-Tune the News and some of the more viral campaigns that they've had. But anyway, Songify for the iPhone app is basically what it does is it auto-tunes your voice to make you on pitch, as if you were singing a song. Now, I heard about this, and we played with it live on Social Media Serenity, actually in the post show. It wasn't in a show. But we talked about this in our post show, and I recorded something just off the back. And what I did was I said, I fired up the application and I just talked into it, and I used the same kind of opening thing here that I do all the time for Podcast Answer Man. So I have my iPhone right in front of me. I hit the record button and I say, "Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man, the podcast about podcasting." Doesn't matter if you're a brand, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Well, anyway, this application recorded my voice, and again, I'm not singing it or anything like that. I'm just speaking the words, and this is just a sample of what comes out as a result.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Answer Man, the podcast about podcasting. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new podcaster, if you've been podcasting for many years, or if you are just getting ready to record your first show. There's something we can all do to take our show to the next level. There's something we can all do to take our show to the next level. Back to another episode of Podcast Answer Man, the podcast about podcasting. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new podcaster, if you've been podcasting for many years, or if you are just getting ready to record your first show. There's something we can all do to take our show to the next level.
Well, there you go, my friends. For those of you who said I should never make a debut of singing ever again here on Podcast Answer Man, I think I just blew that. But anyway, it's a lot of fun to play around with. It's a free application. It's called Songify. I don't think that you would want to use it for the intro of your show, but I must say that's a catchy little tune. I in a way, I think I might like that, but anyway, needless to say, I think I'll stick to the theme song we have now for a while. Hey, moving on to our next topic here, we have a call from Richard from Boston who has some feedback related to some advice that I gave about controlling audio levels on the Edirol.
Hey, this is Richard from Boston with a comment for the Podcast Answer Man. In episode 217, you answered a question about levels going into a Edirol. And I agree with what you said with one caveat. You said it doesn't matter where you adjust the levels. However, you should point out that it's generally not a good idea to have any one of your devices up near the maximum, because it's very possible that it may introduce noise and or distortion into the chain. So rather than have two very low and one very high, if you're supposing you have three devices, it would be better to have all three somewhere around the middle. I understand that not all devices will introduce noise, but some might. And in general, it's best practice to have any device not at the maximum. Good show. Keep up the good work.
All right, Richard, thank you very much for the feedback. And yes, that is a good point. If you happen to have a device that when you crank the volume all the way up on it and it does introduce a little bit of extra noise, then feel free to try to back it off just a hair and see if you can't get it to take away that noise. I do know that there are some Tascam recorders that do that, and some mixers will do that as well. But I know for those of you who are using the Mackie 1402 VLC3, the Edirol R-09HR, the Roland R-05, these units, I've seen them, maxed up in some areas, and I don't necessarily see that, but I have seen exactly what Richard is talking about, and if you, it is a good idea not to max them out. The only thing I will say is that my Edirol recorder is currently maxed out at 80 on the input level. It is cranked all the way to the top, and I do that so that I can pull audio from my computer clips without getting this sound. And only those of you with headphones on and good headphones heard that little tiny sound in the background. And that happens if I actually have to gain my mixer up loud enough or too loud to pull in the audio clips from the computer. But anyway, Richard, great additional advice, and I thank you for sharing it. All right, next up, I got a voicemail from Hank saying thank you, and this is what he had to say.
Hi, Cliff. This message is for Podcast Answer Man. My name's Hank Osborne from DaddyLife.net podcast. I just wanted to thank you for your encouragement. This week, I recorded my second episode of the DaddyLife.net podcast, and I actually forwarded some of my listeners over to you and told them about the challenge that you gave a couple of weeks ago in one of your podcasts, where you asked your listeners if they had started a podcast yet, and if they had not, why, if they had been listening to you for a few episodes, 5 or more I think you said, why they hadn't started one of their own. I've got some experience podcasting from years ago, and your challenge lit the fire under me, and I've recorded my second episode. First one was about 17 minutes, and the second one's about 20 minutes. So just wanted to say thanks and let you know I gave a plug in my second episode about you and the encouragement you gave me, and I really appreciate it. Wish you the best. God bless. Thanks.
All right, Hank, thank you so much. And I am so delighted to get your feedback, to know that just something that I said in a podcast inspired you to take your show to the next level. And I even say that at the beginning of every episode. It doesn't matter if you haven't even created your very first episode, there's something we can all do to take our show to the next level. And for you, that next level was recording that first episode. And now to know that you have 2 of those episodes as a result of something that I might have shared in this podcast, I can't tell you just how much that means to me. And I know that I'm saying the words, but it really does mean a lot more than I can even express. And the cool thing is, Hank, is that you are joined by about 10 to 15 other brand new podcasters who also have recorded their first episode as the inspiration of that exact same podcast episode. Some folks have just emailed me and said, you know what, I heard you say this, and I don't know what it was. I've been listening to you for a very long time, but for some reason, what you said clicked. I've been listening for a long time. I haven't been doing anything. It seems like I'm consistently thinking I have to be perfect. And then all of a sudden you say, you know what, just go and do something. And they did it, and I'm delighted. So check it out. What was it? DaddyLife.net. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And so folks can come check you out over there, Hank. And congratulations on producing 2 episodes. And I hope that you make it at least past 10 episodes, because then you're moving in the right direction. All right, real quickly, I want to let you know that I made a new purchase of a technology gadget, and it has something to do with Podcast Answer Man here. I believe I can tie it in. It is the Roku XDS streaming media player. Now, this is a TV set-top box. It's a little tiny thing. It's only a couple inches wide and 1 inch tall. And the Roku, it's ROKU, Roku, and the one that I have is the XDS streaming media player. This thing has the ability to do up to 1080p. And it has HDMI output to your television, also has composite for older televisions if you happen to have a non-HD TV laying around. It has wireless N. It actually has the multi-band wireless N, which is the latest version of wireless. I think it was $99. Did I actually pay a full $99? Here's the cool thing. I have my hyperlink to my Amazon. Yeah, it's $99.99. And if you're Amazon Prime, you get it free shipping, which is very cool. I'm going to have this thing delivered to me on Friday, so I got my free shipping on that as well. And by the way, I do have an Amazon affiliate link to this in the show notes here for Podcast Answer Man episode 219. Why is this Podcast Answer Man related? Well, because this Roku box is going to allow me to stream HD Netflix to my TV, but also I may actually reinvestigate a look into Hulu Plus. I'm not excited about paying a monthly subscription and having advertisements, but there may be some TV shows that our family might want to watch that is not available anywhere else except for there. And so that could be potential. I'm personally looking forward. Oh, and by the way, Amazon streaming TVs and TV episodes and movies as well that you can buy. Those can be streamed here right to the box. And because I'm Amazon Prime, there's some videos and TV shows that are absolutely free, included with my Prime membership to Amazon. So that's going to be nice. Also, I can stream Pandora to my entertainment system, the speakers there. So it, of course, a lot of this stuff I could do just by hooking my Mac up to my TV, but having the Roku box is a lot simpler solution than going in and reconnecting and unconnecting, the little mini display port in the back and switching over and everything. It's just going to make life a little bit easier, and not to mention the fact that it's got a remote control, so I'm not actually having to get up and go and pause them, these shows or whatever from the keyboard up at the top. And yeah, I know that there are iPhone apps that allow me to do that manually or remotely from my seat as well. But anyway, I'm pretty excited about the thing. And mostly, believe it or not, one of the leading factors for me is because, Leo Laporte, more and more on his This Week in Tech and Mac Break Weekly podcast, they're becoming a little bit more painful to listen to in audio form. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes, they'll spend 5 to 7 minutes talking or reacting, not even talking, but reacting to what they're displaying on the screen because they are so focused on video these days. And it's becoming less enjoyable to listen to their content, which is a shame because I really am having less and less time to watch things, at least in front of a computer. And it seems to me like Leo Laporte definitely wants to recreate his old ZDTV model or the Tech TV model, and he's going to live broadcast. I know that that's the vision that he has. I don't think it's the best way to go, but it's what he wants to do, and I'm not going to knock him for that. And if that's the way that he's geared, that's going to be if he's gearing his stuff to be video, then obviously the best way to consume it is going to be in video. And I've actually tried. I have Pocket Apps on my phone or Pocket Casts on my phone, and I subscribe to the video feed. And yes, it allows it to play it in audio only, but those things get a little piled up at times, and those big video files take up so much space on my phone. And I've only got a 16 gig iPhone, so I went back to the only audio versions. And you know what? I've decided, with everything all combined, because Leo prefers to put it out in video, to use the benefits of having video. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't benefits to having video. You can really demonstrate a lot and stuff like that. I still think they are a lot of talking heads, but I think This Week in Tech and especially with their brand new studio that they got going on, they're moving to more professional look and feel of everything that they're doing. And I feel like in a way they are. This Week in Twit.tv is actually becoming a lot more like what I used to like watching, the screensavers and the whole call for help kind of deal. And they definitely have the quality cameras and the switchers and the graphic overlays and stuff like that. So I literally I'm buying a Roku so that I can watch internet video, and mostly so I can watch Leo Laporte stuff there on demand, and also Ice Road Truckers. I like Ice Road Truckers. Now, with that being said, I still prefer audio over video, and if you ever want to know why, just go to podcastanswerman.com/business. And again, that's podcastanswerman.com/business, and I'm just typing it in myself just to make sure. The power of podcasting for your business. All right. So podcastanswerman.com/business. But I just want to let you know, I'm purchasing this device. I don't have an Apple TV, but I have not had a set-top box. And the thing is, we are Netflix subscribers, so we also have the streaming. I know that they're increasing the price. It's only going up $5 a month for us because we had the 2 DVD deal and the streaming, so it's not that bad. For us personally, and we've been using the Wii to do that, and I think it's been only 480p that's coming out of the Wii, and so it'll be nice to actually watch Netflix with a higher resolution, and also have the benefit of all these other things that the Roku box will stream. So if anybody else is out there, you're interested in buying one, again, I do have an affiliate link in the show notes section for Podcast Answer Man, episode 219, And anyway, there you go. Want to let you know also in coming up in here in the future, I am going to be doing an interview with the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Servant Hosting. And I think that's all scheduled for next week. So I don't know if it'll be in episode 220 or 221. But looking forward to that. We're going to talk about the difference between shared hosting and virtual private servers and dedicated servers, and at a much deeper level than even I understand and can explain. We're going to have somebody who really does this and does it well. And so I'm looking forward to having Christian on here and doing that interview. So look forward to that in the very near future. Of course, if you want to call in your questions for the podcast here, I encourage you to do so. It's one way that you can get as many free answers as you want out of me. In fact, I get if I do a search in my Gmail, my Google Apps Gmail account, if I do a search with quote, quick question, end quote, I literally get thousands of responses because I get somewhere between 40 to 100 plus emails every day, and quick question is in probably about 20 to 30% of those emails. And whenever I do that, I say, hey, do you mind calling this into the voicemail feedback hotline for the show? I'd be happy to answer it there for you. Or I could set up a one-on-one consulting call. Here's my hourly rate, or here's a tutorial that I have that you can purchase, that has the answers to this. Or you can call it in and I'll answer for free. Or here's a podcast episode where I did answer it in the past. Those are usually my stock answers that I write back to people. But if you have a question, I'm happy to answer it for you here. Just like Brian, who wanted to know where should his original feed come from for his FeedBurner feed. If you have questions like that related to podcasting new media, give us a call on our voicemail feedback hotline, 859-795-4067. Again, the phone number, 859-795-4067. Hey folks, the Podcasting A to Z course officially kicked off this past Monday. It is going awesome. Absolutely awesome. Already seeing some amazing things happening even faster than before. If you're interested in an upcoming Podcasting A to Z course, may happen in September. If you are interested in that, please email me, cliff@podcastanswerman.com. Tell me to put you on the list for September and get your name on there first before anybody else, and that way we can make sure we secure you a spot. I won't invoice you until August on that, and it won't be due until September 1st anyway. So if you are interested, let me know, and I'll be happy to add you to that list for when I'm ready to start marketing it. Anyway, folks, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Podcast Answer Man. I'll be back again next week, and I just want to say I'm really glad that I moved this out of the live show format. Today was no pressure, and whether you noticed it or not, I paused 2 different times during this recording and started to say something and decided to start saying it a different way. And now that I'm about ready to end with this music here, I'm going to go in and edit a little bit out, and it's going to sound great. Anyway, God bless you all. Until next time, join the community.